Hello, Fermented folks.
We have P. Jelly Clark.
All Makatsu.
We have Travis Baldry.
Today we have a really special guest, Leopoldo Gout.
Are you reeling it in and defending Clown?
I am. Earth doesn't even exist in Battlestar Galactica.
This show gives me heartburn. It's like, I loves it, I hate it.
It's called All Fluff.
Oh!
If you didn't know how I actually feel about The Mandalorian,
Don't worry,
this is it right here.
I'm very curious if Clayton is going to keep his Mandalorian hate in the season 5 intro video as we move on. I love it, though. I love that
You gotta wonder.
You gotta wonder. Hello, Fermented folks, and welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction. I am your temporary host once again, Travis Vermullen. Clayton will be back sometime. He's gone today, though, but we are joined today by amazing author and person Nathaniel Darkish. Welcome back to the show, Nathaniel.
I'm glad to be back.
And today we will be discussing the 4th book in the Hitchhikers Guide to the Galaxy series. So long, and thanks for all the fish. We're going to do all of these, one per season. So next year is the last one, because we're not, according to Jeremy, gonna dip our toes into the ones that were written by someone else.
I mean, I wouldn't go for and another thing unless somebody really makes me do that.
We don't have to. So we're going to stick with Douglas Adams, and we're on the 4th one today with Nathaniel. But before we do that, we have our traditional things that we must get through, because hopefully you all enjoy them. The first one being life updates. Nathaniel will end with you and have you kind of introduce yourself to those who maybe haven't seen you on the show before and haven't met you in person. Life update. I'll go first because you went first yesterday, Jeremy.
Well, that's big of you.
This is going to be the second time that I gross out the audience with dog stuff, and I'm really sorry, listeners and guests. Cold poop is way worse to pick up, and I don't know why. Like, someone scientifically explain that to me, because it seems like it would be the opposite, right? But I forgot a poop bag out, and I took my dogs out, and I had to come back and get one and go get the poop. And I almost vomited, because it is really nasty to pick up cold dog poop. So don't do it. Bring your poop bags. Be a responsible dog owner. Don't be me.
It wasn't lukewarm?
No, it was like already cold because there was rain. So it was gross. It was real gross.
Oh, so it was nice, wet, and slick too?
Yeah, I don't even know. That's why I say I'm sorry. I'm sorry, people. But that's my advice. Don't pick up cold poop if you can help it. Jeremy, the more you know.
Yeah.
Kenneth Russell, I don't know what the hell's going on either. Thank you for the comment. Jeremy, what's going on in your life?
Well, I think what I need to do here now is update any regular-ish viewers, listeners, people on the sort of ongoing segment that I've been doing about, which I like to call how I fucked up my ankle pretty bad. And this may in fact be the final entry in this segment, because I am now all the way done with physical therapy. Good job. Yeah, it's pretty good. And it's got me in a fine mood. Fine enough to say Oompa Loompa the way Agent Ankle Soup. What? I don't actually know what that is.
I have these comments.
I'm looking at the comments.
We're gonna lose control. We can't do it. Okay, Nathaniel.
Control is an illusion.
What's going on in your life? Who are you, and where can people find your stuff?
Yes. So I am Nathaniel Darkish. I am a horror writer and podcaster. So if you want to check out my podcast, it's Scream Kings, which I co-host with Max George and fellow author NJ Gallegos, who I believe was recently on the show. So there's that. And then, I write horror. So I've got some stories in a couple of anthologies. The little banner there on the bottom mentions the names of those. But yeah, what's going on in my life? I just finished writing the first draft of a horror novella that is contracted to come out next October, called Tapeworms. So that one is a lot of fun. It's really gross, and it's a good time.
Heck yeah! And you have the towel.
Yes, I have rocking my Hitchhiker's Guide towel with the bowl of petunias. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a sperm whale with it too. And then it says, "Don't panic, remember your towel."
I love it.
Gotta remember the towel.
Congratulations on another step in the novella process.
Thank you.
I've never gone through that pain, but I have heard from my brother how much it sucks to edit and continue to try and finish your book.
Yeah, that tends to be the slog part.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to read it when it comes out. All right. Now, for the main part of the show, kind of. It's one of the shortest, but we call it the main part, I think, because it kicks everything else off. The debate. Today, as I said, we are debating So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. For those of you who have not listened to before or watched, we spoil everything. So if you haven't read So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, you should go do that. Or if you haven't read any of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you have 3 books before you get to this one. So
just go read those. It does not take very long.
Catch up. They're short. He writes at a very frenetic pace. But this one follows Arthur as he returns to a somehow restored England and Earth, where everyone is under the impression that there was a giant CIA hysteria hallucination about the Vogons blowing up the planet. He meets a couple people, and normal Douglas Adams shenanigans ensue. That's all I'll say. I'm sure more of it will come out when Jeremy and Nathaniel debate and when we just discuss it. So, with that being said, do you have your D20s?
Oh, yes.
Okay, here on this show, we roll a dice to decide who gets to argue for, who gets to argue against. High roll is for, low roll is against, regardless of what they actually think. Gentlemen, please roll your dice.
I have an 8.
Ooh, wow. That is a 9.
Oh,
man.
All right.
Oh, man.
That is...
By 1 point, Jeremy is on the side that is pro So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. You have 10 minutes for your debate, and it is a shared timer, so please no filibustering. But other than that, all hits below the belt are allowed. Go ahead. I've been called very mean names on this show.
Get right up in there, man.
Get right up in there. Your debate begins with Jeremy on the pro side in 3, 2, 1, begin.
Now, look, there is so much to say about this book and really as the series as a whole, but in the interest of not being unfair, I'm going to sort of leave out the bits about how the audiobooks read by Douglas Adams are so good that they've ruined other audiobooks for me. And we're just going to take this book as it is. And as it is, this is a super interesting entry into the series. Like, it's after all this 3-book arc of saving the whole universe and all these shenanigans, and it's this nice, cozy little story. You have Arthur Dent for once actually in his element and kind of thriving, even though it's clear that his time and space has deeply changed him, and he's basically he is to other humans what Ford Prefect has been to him. And it's this cool little thing where he wants to belong, but he also kind of doesn't. There is also a lot of great stuff where you get to see Ford Prefect in his element, which is crazy 100% of the time, and just so fun. And of course, this book does the thing that I think we were all wondering. It answers the question once and for all of, does Arthur Dent fuck? And the answer is yes. Yes, very much so.
A lot.
Sometimes in the sky. And that's
almost
nice.
always in the sky.
It seems like it. The only confirmed instances were in the sky, so maybe he only does it up there. And I mean, if I could fly, I obviously would. But ultimately, this has everything that's great about the other entries in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but with different. It's a different kind of story. It's different stakes, and it's really something special.
Is it though?
Pretty much.
I mean, let's talk about this, because this doesn't really feel like a Hitchhiker's Guide book. If we're arguing that this is a strong entry into the series, it almost doesn't even feel like it belongs in the series. There is no Zaphod. There's basically no Trillion. The inclusion of Marvin, the paranoid android, is basically an afterthought. Most of the book, it's really just one character doing his own thing on Earth, which is not, really dealing with the galaxy in any meaningful way, much less hiking across it. We do have someone slowly making his way towards him, but he only actually touches base with him near the end. This is, a book in a series called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, in which there's virtually no hitchhiking and no galaxy. The way that the story is structured is really just like, hey, it's a dude on Earth who feels weird. Okay. And he meets a girl who's also a little weird. All right, so it's this just 500 Days of Summer, some cute or meet cute thing. Fenchurch is basically the ultimate manic pixie dream girl. There's not a lot that happens other than, will he date this girl? And then when they finally do, it's just, basically 150 pages of them flying around boning. And look, I get how that would be interesting wish fulfillment, but And then, finally, at the very, very end, we have a brief, let's jump to another planet. Let's see, the final message of God and see Marvin for 2 seconds, and done. So it really just feels like almost a collection of notes. And also, even though the book is very short, it feels like it really should be a short story rather than a full novel.
Well, hey, I'm going to go ahead and fully disagree with that. While the story itself is very simple and very straightforward, and it doesn't have the most happening
or anything happening, really.
Hey, it's got flying boning, and if that's not something you want in your book, then I don't think we can be friends. But what I'm saying is, it does exactly what you want in a Douglas Adams book, and especially in an entry into the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where everything that's happening is given just enough context to not have to take it too seriously, to make it so that if you don't fully understand what's going on, it's pretty clear that it almost certainly doesn't matter why something is happening, because of this crazy universe that even the Earth cannot escape being a part of. But it also it does it in such a way that you don't then not take things seriously, that you don't want to pay attention to what's going on. The book straight up says, hey, we're going to be doing some boning for a while. If that's not your jam, you can skip to the last chapter. Marvin's there. and it's fun and it's good. And I love a book with the confidence to just dare you to not finish reading it, knowing full well that you're gonna. It's incredible.
Or is that just Douglas Adams admitting that this is kind of a bad book, and you might as well just get to the part that actually has the characters you care about?
See, I absolutely don't think so. And you know why I don't think that Douglas Adams thought this was a bad book? It's because of Rob McKenna. He got just basically he finished writing this incredible, well-beloved series, and he's like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna write about one miserable bastard and how it always just rains on this guy just cuz. And it's so good, and it's got all this weirdness that if anything, it shows that Arthur Dent had this idea of the world as being this safe, normal, perfect place, but there was all this weird shit going on, and he just was not paying attention until he became one with the universe, which it absolutely seems like he did.
But it doesn't even really bother telling us how he even got there. It just feels like sloppy writing. And also, this book seems to matter so little that The Hitchhiker's Guide is a trilogy where there are 5 books, which tells me books 4 and 5 are kind of not even worth picking up because even the author doesn't really acknowledge them.
Books 4 and 5 are maybe the most interesting part of the series, if you're asking me personally, which it seems like you just did. So I'm gonna just go, because this book is super interesting because after all the plot and saving the universe and everything, you are kind of left with this, oh, well, what now? And it does, and I will give you this, it does feel like something that he wrote just because he was probably asked to. He was probably maybe obligated to write this and the next book, and in this book he gave everybody, and he concluded every single character's stories, including Marvin and Zaphod, Trillian, Ford, everyone in this book gets a happily ever after, and in the next book gets something totally different, which
but
is
does it really
incredible.
count as a good, satisfying happily ever after if half of them are just a quick info dump? Oh well, yeah, Zaphod's off. He's happy now and has calmed down, and Trillian's doing her thing. Is that really a happily ever after? It just seems like it's kind of a phoning it in.
Well, I mean, Zaphod's story kind of ran out of gas halfway through the last book. So, I mean, yeah, it makes sense that he's not going to be involved in this one story on this one planet where he for sure is not going to want to be, And there's...
Well, and I don't blame him. It seems like there's not much story to be in.
I mean, yeah, there is so little for him to even try to be involved in. It would be
shut up, Jeremy. Shut it. You quit. You sew that trap shut. Also, I don't know how we do it so often. I'm probably going to jinx us for the next one. But we somehow always end the 5 seconds on us, not on the guest. Go Fermented Fiction. It's us getting told to shut up. All right. Well done. Good debate.
We're pros.
Yeah, no, we're something. Well done, both of you. All right. I'm going to be a little unorthodox here, and I'm just going to say I don't know very many fun facts about this one. Oh, before we do that, though, we do have Drink of the Week, and I'm going to also be unconventional with this because we're going to end with Jeremy because he's got something real exciting to share. So I'll go first. I'm drinking Dry Hills Rye.
Ooh.
And a straight rye. It's a good... I'm usually not a rye fan. I'm more of a bourbon guy, but I've been coming around to rye because my wife loves rye. So I saw this one on the shelf, decided to try it, and it's pretty damn good. I'm enjoying it. Nathaniel. What do you got?
So I am drinking nothing alcoholic because I'm Mormon and we don't do that, which always makes for fun when we hang out at conferences and stuff. I give out drink tickets. I think that's how I became friends with Clayton.
That'll do it. Yeah.
So I am drinking this. It is
Brigham's
Wasatch.
Brew.
Yeah, Brigham's Brew peaches and cream soda. It says that it is peachy keen. It's quite tasty.
Sounds exactly peachy keen.
Yes, right. I just figured, repping the great state of Utah with Brigham's Brew.
It's a great name too. Great name.
Oh,
Brigham's Brew. I love that. All right, Jeremy, you got something special. What did you bring? I'm going to put you on the big screen just for this.
Wow, that's incredible. See, what had happened was I spent the last year, really exactly 1 year, doing research and development specifically for this episode and the next episode that we do on the Hitchhiker's Guide, trying to recreate the Pangalactic Gargle Blaster, which I don't know if you've ever looked up recipes for this, but they all sound uniformly terrible. Even the one from How to Drink, I love Greg as much as everybody else, but he did not do it right. He made Old Jank Spirit champagne, which is crazy. That's crazy. Greg, get help, and I love you. But, because, look, it's a serious business, and there are a lot of things that we have to try and figure out to make this happen. Because most of the ingredients happen to be made up and don't exist on Earth, you have to make some substitutions. The first thing to substitute is Old Jank Spirit, which I assumed was whiskey, specifically a bourbon, and even more specifically Jack Daniels. Because the guide says it's what they drink in the mining belts of Orion Beta, and during the gold rush, the drink of choice for miners on Earth was a bourbon whiskey.
Yeah.
And since it's something for people with, jobs, Jack Daniels, perfect choice.
I think that's great reason. That's great. Yeah. Great logic.
Hey, I'm putting in the work around here.
Mm-hmm.
Not for anything important. Just kind of this, actually. Then we needed water from the seeds of Santraginus 5. Import fees are terrible, so I just went with club soda since it's salted and bubbly.
Fair.
And you'll want that because, Phalian marsh gas also has to get in there. Right? Right. Now for Arcturan Mega Gin, we'd probably just do gin and ice. You do lose the benzene that way, but that's just as well because of how it causes cancer in humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. Then you've got, of course, the qualactin hypermint extract, which we absolutely cannot get around here. So instead, I went with the Fernet Branca, which is bitter, minty, and makes this taste like it's from another planet. So that's good. Now, rather than trying to source the tooth of an Angolian sun tiger, went with some fiery ginger syrup. And, gives you a little bit of burn. In place of the Zamfir, got edible gold glitter. And for the olive, I went with an olive. And then I added lemon juice
bold
because
choice.
It tastes better that way.
Bold choice with the olive.
Hey,
and show us what it looks like. Show us what it looks like. There it is. The Pangalactic Gargle Blaster.
But I don't know if it's fully a Pangalactic Gargle Blaster because you're not recoiling in horror when you drink it. Because it's supposed to feel like having your brain smashed out by a slice of lemon wrapped around a large gold brick, and I don't see that level of reaction.
That's because I'm all dead inside. Don't worry. This is basically like a mugging, expensive and bad for the head.
I think you have earned, sir, a round of applause. Well done. Well done. Jeremy has invented another version of the Pangalactic Gargoyle Blaster that he will say is the objectively correct one. Yes?
It's the most objectively correct ones.
All right. Trivia is usually what we move on to next, but like I said, I am not the biggest Douglas Adams fan on the show. I love Douglas Adams, but there's some other people here that love Douglas Adams even more than I do. And so I'm just going to kind of outsource. Anybody got fun facts about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that they would love to share with the audience?
Well, I mean, the song "So Long and Thanks for All the Fish" is a bop.
That's true. Yeah.
As featured in the beginning
of
the film.
Incredible things to come out of that movie.
Yes. Yeah. I quite like the movie. I know it's a
There's
controversial
a lot to love there.
I have met people who do more than I thought I would, who thought that it actually does a decent job of like capturing the vibe of Adams. I'd have to rewatch it to figure out if I agree, because I think I watched it when I was like 13 and I hadn't read the book, and I was like, this is fun. And then I read the book and everyone was like, it's not fun, it sucks. And I'm like, I need to revisit that. But
I just don't think that you can do better than, their version of Marvin. Like, their version of Marvin is, in my opinion, just exactly perfect.
Like Alan Rickman, how can you even come on?
Mm-hmm.
I think the casting in that movie is fantastic.
Sam Rockwell is Zaphod.
Sam Rockwell is the man.
Like, dude, what more do you want? Sam Rockwell based his performance as Zaphod Beeblebrox off of Elvis Presley and George W. Bush. That is a true fact about the world we live in.
That's amazing. That's probably...
Honestly, if you just told me like that's just actually his real personality, I would also 100% believe it, because that just seems like the energy he brings to most projects.
Yeah, there's a whole compilation that's like on YouTube that's how to figuring out how to dance in every movie you're ever in, and it's just Sam Rockwell like doing a little jig in like every role he's ever been in. Even Moon, which is one of like a really depressing film.
Mm-hmm.
He gets a little
that boy gonna dance.
Yeah, that boy gonna dance for sure. Jeremy, you got any fun facts that maybe you haven't shared, or even ones that maybe people haven't heard that you have shared about Hitchhiker's Guide?
Well, here's one fun fact that I found, and I think it is relevant to this book, because I think part of it is a little bit autobiographical, wherein Arthur Dent goes to buy a computer and he ends up buying the Apple. Fun fact, the first two people in England to own Apple computers were Douglas Adams and Stephen Fry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So that's like a thing. Huh?
Yeah, and Stephen Fry, followed in Adams' footsteps with doing the revamp of the show that Adams created, Last Chance to See.
Yes.
So they were friends, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they were definitely friends. It's part of why Stephen Fry voices the guide in the movie, and why some of the most prolific versions of the audiobooks are read by Stephen Fry. Even though I absolutely cannot listen to them.
How old
Douglas Adams ruined me.
How old was Douglas Adams when he passed?
He was pretty young.
2001.
He was not very old, and I'm not
49. Oh man, that's sad.
Yeah,
it was just massive heart failure.
That's what I was like thinking. I only thought of that. I'm not trying to just be sad for no reason. I only thought of that because I was like, Stephen Fry is not that old. And so I was like, oh, and they were friends, because Stephen Fry's got to only be in his at most 70s, right? He's 68. Yeah. I knew he was
Yeah.
pretty young still. So
Mhm.
I did not know Douglas Adams passed that soon. That's sad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was like a health nut too. So in fact, he was like exercising and then just dropped dead.
Crazy. I guess we all just need to follow the Churchill diet, and we'll make it to 88. No, nobody do that. Look it up.
Please
It is absolute insanity. There's actually, here's a fun fact, not related to Hitchhiker's Guide. There's a great YouTube. I wish I could remember the name, but if you just look up YouTube Winston Churchill diet, you'll see there's a whiskey channel that tried to do it.
Oh, is it the Whiskey Tribe?
Yeah, the Whiskey Tribe. They try
Yeah.
and do the Churchill diet, and they make it to
God,
like
what a nightmare.
3:00 before they're like, "This is the worst experience of our lives." Like,
God's sake.
just suffering. All right. Well, any other fun facts? I know we kind of had a short section on that one today, but that's okay. We're going to get right to that conversation about the book.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Have you ever covered the fun fact of the bring your towel around with you day that is in honor of Adams?
I don't remember. Tell us. Tell us,
I don't think
Nathaniel.
we've done it yet.
Okay, so for Hitchhiker's Guide, it is May 25th every year. Is the day that absolutely you must bring your towel to honor Adams. And I guess, just to show my level of very specific nerdiness, I have been doing that since junior high school. So
Hell yeah.
yes, yeah, I would have a towel. It'd be like the last week of school. I'd be walking around with the towel. People were like, "What?
Why do you have a towel?"
What? But now I have a very
It's
specific
so
towel.
useful.
My special.
Oh,
But-
yes.
Through that, did you get any of your students into Hitchhiker's Guide?
Yes, I did.
Nice. Well done. You're doing the Lord's work out there, the people's work there.
You absolutely are.
Yes, I shamelessly just shove all of the unhinged, wonderful, writing of Adams and Pratchett and lots of other good stuff. I'm constantly corrupting the youth. It's great.
Corrupting the youth. Love it. All right. Anything else? Sweet.
Nah.
Well,
Let's fucking do
Nathaniel, it is the time. I'm going to put you up here in that corner, the main spotlight. You were against. So now the whole audience wants to know, were you lying? Do you actually dislike So Long and Thanks for All the Fish?
I do not dislike it. I would actually say it is one of my favorites in the series. Like, all of the points that I was making, I think, are very valid. I think that it is a weird, orphan child in the series in terms of just, it doesn't really fit the tone or the overall feel. But I really liked that, deep character exploration. I really like, seeing Arthur on display in such an interesting way and actually getting inside his head and having a character that he can relate with for the first time. I wish it had a little bit more of Marvin. I wouldn't have minded having a little bit of some of the other series regulars, but as a whole, I really enjoy seeing Arthur. I really think Fenchurch is really a charming character. I quite enjoy having her in the series. So yeah, I would say I like it better than it's probably my second favorite book in the series, next to the original.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Jeremy, were
Hey.
you lying at all, or are you a fan of this book and you were telling the truth in your proposition?
Oh, yeah. Hey, man, I love this book. Frankly, I love every book in the series. The trouble I run into is when I try to rank them, and then I remember, this book has one of my favorite things in all of literature, and then I move on to the next book, this one also has one of my favorite things in all of literature, and this one is absolutely no exception. And I love this sort of this book and the next book are such a fun and interesting phase of the series in that like both books serve as like a very definitive end to the series in two distinct ways. And it's incredible. Now look, because this episode was scheduled for May and then it got rescheduled for July, I did have time to listen through the audiobooks read by Douglas Adams 2 full times in preparation for this, and it's incredible. And I've mentioned it before, but these audiobooks have ruined other audiobooks for me. Like if I'm listening to something on Audible, I have to speed it up like a minimum of like 20%, but usually I like if I'm sitting alone, have a book in my hand to follow along, 2 to 3 times the speed, just to get through it. But these are the only books I've ever found, and specifically read by Douglas Adams, that I don't have to speed up at all because his delivery is so engaging and fantastic, and you also get to hear him try to pronounce iguana, which is terribly fun. For anybody who doesn't know, iguana every time without fail. Iguana. And if you've never heard Douglas Adams try to do an American accent, you should. It's great. It's great, and this book specifically does obviously have a few of my favorite things. One is the introduction of Rob McKenna, which is, Rob McKenna was a miserable bastard and he knew it, and goes on from there, and it's just so good. And it also has the description of Wonko the Sane as basically being a Voltron of David Bowie's and beach furniture. And it's
I love
so
Wonka
good.
the Sane. He is one of the best characters in the whole series.
He's incredible. And in my headcanon live action adaptation, he is played by George Clooney.
Nice.
And yeah.
Like now George Clooney, or like what era?
Now George Clooney.
Now George Clooney. Like gray George Clooney.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
George Clooney that you could see being just a bit weird to put people off until he realizes, like, oh, you guys have the same fishbowl too.
Yeah,
So
I could see him bringing like his like most men who stare at goats energy to that.
Yeah.
Ooh, yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I have to admit, even though this was rescheduled, I didn't read the book. I've read 3 of these books. I haven't got to this one yet because my TBR is way too long. But I'm whittling it down, and I will get to this one. I did read this synopsis, which I know is not a substitute at all. But I mean, I'm very curious to see how I like it because, I'm a Zaphod guy. He's so fun, and he's not in this one, so I'm very curious how that's gonna.
He is fun.
That's true, but I would say this has probably the best moment of Marvin.
Yes.
Like really like end of his life, Marvin, looking at the final message from God is probably like one of the biggest series highlights for me. He's that moment is
It's incredible.
Better than him depressing the AI tank to death.
That part is hilarious.
That is so good.
I loved that part.
Yes, that's fair. I really enjoy that as well.
I laughed out loud. To your point about the audiobook, Jeremy, my wife is also an avid audiobooker. She listens when she's doing chores and everything. And after I read the first 2 and was like, the series is great, she put it on. And like, I got a text halfway through the day while I was at school that was just like, this guy has ADHD.
Yes.
I was like,
so bad. You can super tell. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to see something that really shows how intense his ADHD is, read the book of Last Chance to See, which is basically just him and a nature photographer going and seeing endangered animals all over the world, and just the way that he writes, especially about any time there's like bureaucracy slowing things down or anything like that, you can just feel his ADHD just like radiating from the page.
Oh yeah, it is palpable.
Nice.
Everybody.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it definitely is no surprise that he was writing for TV with a bunch of Doctor Who stuff during this era and all that as well. So
is it so? There's Doctor Who episodes that are written by Douglas Adams.
yes.
Which doctor?
Oh, Gall.
I want to. It's one of the. It's a doctor from like the 70s or 80s or something.
Because I always like finding those. I remember finding and I know there's a lot of controversy around him, but finding the Neil Gaiman Doctor Who episode and being like, yes, you can tell 1000% that this is a Neil Gaiman written episode. And,
Sure.
I don't know who else has, but I don't know.
That terrible guy was a pretty good writer.
Yeah.
Yep. And a pretty terrible person.
Yep.
So what a fuck.
Yeah. It looks like he was mostly writing for the 5th Doctor.
Okay.
I can't remember which one is which. Oh my gosh. And he wrote some skits for Monty Python.
Sick.
That sounds so right.
I love Monty Python.
And apparently he was in a couple of the skits.
The first episode of Monty Python, I've watched maybe like 50 times because I just like start the series and get so in love with the first one with the pigs, the squealing pigs on the chalkboard count. So good. Monty Python's Flying Circus is a work of absolute art. Well, before we go to break, 5-minute break to be exact, I want to give you two, homework. Yep. Sorry.
Oh, shit.
Me. Because this is kind of a first question when we come back from break. It's going to be a bit lengthy and in depth, but I think it's fitting for this book because, as Nathaniel mentioned, the Hitchhiker's Guide was like kind of a trilogy and then 2 extra books added at the end that seemed to be pretty well received by the fans, but they're definitely a different style. So I want to hear your defense for all 3 of these. This is the homework. And I know it's only 5 minutes of thought on this, but bear with me. Defense for duologies, trilogies, and then for like sagas or franchise kind of things. Like what makes each of those one of the way to go? All right. That's the homework while you're doing your biology break, 5 minutes. What is the best case for duologies, trilogies, and then multi-book franchise? And then
you want examples?
You can bring examples if you can. I'd love examples. It's not required. And then at the end, I'd love to know what your personal preference is for the 3, if you have one. I know sometimes it's like 2, but all right. We will all turn our cameras and microphones off. I will play a 5-minute season 4 preview video. And when we come back, we will answer that question and have a little discussion about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Thank you all for joining us. And thank you again, Nathaniel, for coming on and debating the book. We'll see you all in 5. Goodbye.
Hello, Fermented folks. Welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction, the first of our new season, and I believe it's season 4. The show where we drink beer and argue with each other and bring on really awesome creative guests.
If you'll permit me to go a little bit outside the box. Once upon a time, apparently, people used to sniff mummy remains, powdered mummy remains like cocaine. So I think 3 lines of powdered mummy remains, if you can get to that as well. Yeah, that'll get you right. to really enjoy the movie, you know.
Dave told us all about making a mead, and I talk shit about Tom Bombadil, as I am wont to do whenever people bring up Lord of the Rings.
You would. You should.
And then that's
Everybody
exactly what he
freaking
made.
chill about Tom Bombadil, or I'll get unreasonably upset.
So, in your assessment, what did you think of the everyone kind of paired off, or at least a number of people did, romantically? How'd you feel about that? Did that seem really forced and dumb to you, or?
Tom Bombadil is a merry old fellow with his bright blue jacket and his boots are yellow. Right?
His boots are yellow.
Right.
Imagine discovering mummy remains and oh my god, these ancient figures. Dude, what if we crushed this and snorted it, yo? I bet we'd get fucked up.
Let's talk for a moment about the fucking all-star cast in this movie. We have Ewan McGregor slaughtering it the entire time, main character energy, top to bottom. You can't argue with it. Women want him, men want him, everybody wants Ewan McGregor. Okay? If you don't agree with that, you're lying to yourself.
Apparently she had a backstory, but they cut it because she's very hard-nosed at the beginning. And then I will say another pro of this movie is their chemistry is hot. And I feel if they didn't have that chemistry, I would have been ugh. Because she says at one point, she's oh, it's the apocalypse. What are we going to do? Fuck. And he's and then later when they are kissing, if they didn't have chemistry and if it was two lesser actors, I think it would have been an eye roll, felt cheesy, but you feel their bond.
The Langoliers themselves were originally going to be portrayed by puppets. And I think maybe they should have. Maybe they should have.
Dude, that's amazing.
There's no maybe about that.
And I wish that I could say that there was something greater happening here than the war diary of a broken man living as sort of this White Tower academic with all of his friends sitting inside the Eagle and Child drinking beer and pretending Magic Lion Jesus isn't really silly. Because, it is. If we can just all be very honest with each other.
The Lord's work out there. Good job.
I like to think that I am. Most people aren't big enough, but I am. I'm willing to step up. You know?
Yeah. Dedicate that time.
You're
willing to dedicate that time.
The time, the money, all of it.
That was so painful. It's one of those painful things.
That was so
life.
good. That was so good. We've never been so savagely attacked by any author on their show. It's incredible. Welcome everyone. Like, comment, and subscribe, or else.
Please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, I noticed as the season 4 preview video I played was counting down that our break was 4 minutes and 30 seconds. So I'm sorry. It was a little short, but hey,
rude of us.
We're back. So we're going to start with you, Nathaniel. Did you have enough time to think about my homework?
Yes.
What are your defenses and what is your personal preference?
Okay, so duologies work great when we are talking about a story that is kind of a complete story, and then we have a second story that's kind of dealing with the aftershocks of that story. So great example here would be something like how we have The Shining, and then we have Doctor Sleep, where the second story is really all about what does this do to somebody's life, or what is the social situation like once this kingdom has collapsed, or whatever it is for the story. I think they work really well for that kind of thing, where it's usually big events and then what are the repercussions of that event? So that's what I think works great for duologies. Trilogies are great because it feels like it's a more planned out, cohesive story. Of course, Lord of the Rings is kind of the pinnacle example of this, but it's just kind of naturally fits the sort of 3-act structure that like our brains feel really comfortable with. It feels nice. We get sort of the beginning, middle, and end, and it's a good way to pace a larger story without getting super bloated. And then, when we're dealing with like longer series, I think, really the biggest reason that one would want to go with like really long series tends to be to meander, to explore, to, look at a world from a bunch of different angles. And, for me, this is what like Discworld does amazing, where, each story in this, massive series is kind of doing its own thing. It's exploring a different facet of the world or a different moment in these characters' lives, or, is riffing off of some other idea. But it's within the larger framework. A lot of times authors, spend so much time building a meaningful, interesting, well-developed world, but then they only tell one or two little stories in that big world. And I like when, series can really sprawl out and tell different kinds of stories in it. I guess another great example of this would be Lois McMaster Bujold, her Vorkosigan saga, where it's this big sci-fi epic, but some of these stories are like political thrillers. Some of them are war stories. Some of them are, dealing with intrigue and spying, and other ones are just like romantic comedies. And it's this huge variety, and you get to know these characters well, and you get to know this universe well because you get to see different moments in their lives. Because for characters, it isn't always all war all the time, or all thriller action. Like sometimes it's nice to see a character that you like settle down and have kids and like fall in love and get into shenanigans. And so I think that's kind of ultimately what we have Adams doing with this series. Is he wrote the big story, and now he just like wants to just kind of explore some weird ideas in that universe with those last two.
Play in the sandbox a little. That's interesting, because you mentioned Lord of the Rings, and that's always been what I've thought. I don't want them to ever make a TV show because they tried the Rings of Power thing, and that was terrible. But I always thought, like, if they did, it would be the only. I don't think they could have done it in a movie. Done the like, what is it called, the Scouring of the Shire or whatever. That like last little bit, to me, is one of my favorite parts of the series. But I fully understand why Jackson cut it, because it's like you need so much time to do it right. But that seems like, to me, even though it's in a trilogy, it was cool to see like all the turmoil ends, but there's still this like fallout that we have to deal with. Great defenses. I'm curious, little follow-up before we get to Jeremy, of like, it almost sounds like Adams wrote like a 3-book, 1 book, and then this is like a duology kind of thing tacked on the end. Because the way you described that, of like, this is the fallout, or is this more of a sandbox exploration, or is it more of a, how did the saving the universe affect the characters, or is it both? I guess
I think this first one is, so long thanks for all the fish, is the what is it going to do to a person to experience all those crazy things. And then I think the 5th book, Mostly Harmless, is more of the, I don't know, we're just going to play with some weird ideas and see what happens. What if the Hitchhiker's Guide is sentient and all sorts of weird crap? So that's what I think he's doing there. But yeah, I think with those original stories, even though I don't think necessarily planned them out, he felt like he kind of had a more complete arc that we're kind of building off of ideas from one to another. Because it really did just start with him writing a radio show, and just each week it was the new shenanigans of these characters, and that's ultimately what formed the first book.
Yeah. All right, Jeremy, what did you think of the homework assignment? Do you have duology, trilogy, multi-book, franchise? What are your defenses?
Well, look, I think what it comes down to is it's partly like what kind of story you're trying to tell, but ultimately it comes down to how much gas in the tank that particular story has. Like, not a lot of stories have enough in them to be a full trilogy or to go kind of beyond that. Like, I'll use this kind of as an example, whereas like we're like Avatar: The Legend of Korra, which you know has its fans, has its detractors. I consider myself a fan, but I think the first season of that show is incredible, and the second season shows that like maybe it should have only been one season, and the following seasons after that were incredible. Sometimes the best show on TV. But like, it's not a show that initially had enough gas in the tank to be what it ultimately became.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, I think we get that mainly now with people complaining about Marvel movies. Like, oh my goodness, it's still more Marvel, and there's not enough there to keep people interested if you're just telling the same kind of story over and over. I don't know. Personally, I love a story that fits into like three bits at most, and then it's done. Because to borrow a phrase from somewhere, it's a good story is like a good bowel movement, in that it's really only satisfying when you're finished.
Yeah. I do think there's a problem in a lot of, at least in film, I see where they won't, at least in America in film, they won't kill the thing. And I think that happened with Marvel. We see friggin' Robert Downey Jr. is coming back as Doctor Doom, and it's like Iron Man's arc in the 23 films was so done. It's perfect. Like, leave it. It's done. He died. He had a great death. We're done with that. But no, we're not, because they want to make more money off of Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, like I agree. I think when we have these big sprawling series, it really kind of boils down to, why do you keep writing in the series? Is it just because people are throwing money at you to continue to do it? Is it because you actually have good ideas? I love when series will continue and sprawl and do interesting things because the author still has cool ideas. Pratchett never wrote a Discworld book where I was like, oh, I don't know, he just kind of phoned that one in. Like, they're all good ideas, but
yeah,
and he was writing killer books all the way till the end, but it's not. Yeah, it's not just doing it because like people were expecting it. Whenever he wanted to do something else, he did. So yeah, like, it really just needs to be, you tell the story you want to tell, and if you have more story, awesome, write sequels. Or if you don't really have anything and you're kind of forcing it, then you kind of have the Legend of Korra season 2, which has some good ideas, but is kind of a hot mess. We just get this like endless sprawl. But yeah, I think fresh ideas, new ideas, meaningful stories that continue to expand and explore is ultimately whatever it needs to be. It doesn't have to be 2 or 50 or whatever. It can be whatever side series it needs to be, as long as it's right for the story.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear y'all's thoughts too on, because that's a different thing with Avatar versus Korra, of like, we get some character callback, and same with these books where you see some of the people from the original 3 in this one, but not as many, it sounds like. And in Korra, you like get a little hearkening back to the old Avatar and the characters we grew up with, but then it's like it's a new Avatar with a new cast. And so that's like that sandbox thing. So I guess my question in here is kind of, what do you gravitate towards more? A series that's maybe both of these hypotheticals are long series. One of them follows the same group of characters, all the way to the conclusion of like a pretty lengthy story. And the other one maybe is either singular books or just short little bursts of like sandbox play, kind of like Discworld, where you have your like death set, you have your, you know,
witches, you have the
witches
Watch, you
set,
have
where you get those different varieties. What do you gravitate towards there? Because I know, like, I'm thinking of Sanderson kind of does both, which is, and people seem to enjoy both the sandbox and the character follow.
Yeah, I mean, I like when we have both things happening. Sometimes it is really satisfying to follow characters all the way through. I think at a certain length, or at a certain point with a lot of series, it starts being, how many times does this person have to deal with these kind of crazy things? Like, can they just like have a normal Tuesday ever? Especially like a lot of those like really lengthy like urban fantasy series or things like that. It's always some new bull crap with some new monster in town, and Harry Dresden has to go punch a new vampire or something.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for Dresden Files, but you're 100% right.
Yeah, and like with stories like that, like I can get burned out really quickly. I usually will enjoy the first 4 in a series like that, and then I go, I don't know, like I'll pick them up every once in a while. But for me, I think it really is just like, is there a big enough story that I'm coming back to these characters over and over again? Like Sanderson with his Stormlight Archive books, like, there's 5 books and there's going to be another 5 books in that series. And it's a really big, earth-shattering arc about what these people are dealing with. But then if you kind of, zoom out and look at the whole Cosmere that he's created, it's like, yeah, sometimes it's like a one-off book. And sometimes you have characters that pop back up. And sometimes you have a trilogy. And sometimes you have a little duology. And it's kind of whatever it needs to be for the story. And I tend to like those better because, yeah, I get really, like, I feel action fatigue for those characters. I just feel like, at a certain point, someone else has to save the world.
Yep. Can't be Harry every single time. Jeremy?
I mean, yeah, I just have to kind of totally agree with that. Like, much as I love following characters through a long story while the world's getting fleshed out and stuff, at a certain point, it just straight up stops making sense that these are the only people dealing with these problems, or I just stopped caring. See, as example, Supernatural, after they beat the actual devil.
Yeah.
Ignoring for a moment that they're like, hey, well, everybody step back. It's the Judeo-Christian devil, which means, oh, this is bad. This is bad news.
They didn't have to beat a super devil afterwards?
Yeah, no. Then they were like, let's scramble and try and think of a villain that's worse than Satan himself.
Just literally Satan, yes.
Lucifer 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo.
Lucifer 2, a little too Lucifer.
I have another follow-up on this one because this really branched off for me. And I've asked this on the show before, and I've had a discussion with Clayton about it. But speaking of Dresden, and I know we've gotten a little away from Douglas Adams, but we'll come back. Speaking of Dresden, I'm very curious at y'all's opinions on how long is, and I don't think there's any right answer to this, but like how long is too long to wait to up the stakes? Because that's the conversation I've had with Clayton is he thinks there's not really any stakes in Dresden. And he's correct for 14 books. And then in the like 15th book, those stakes get upped hardcore. But at that point I was like, okay, I'm a avid fan, but if I'm trying to convince somebody to like continue with the series who wants like stakes and real death consequences, it's a little hard sell when you're like, don't worry, by book 15, it gets real. So I guess my question would be, like, are stakes something you have to just elevate right away? Or do you think there is a little level of like building the
Later.
relationships with the character and playing around with it for a bit, and then kind of coming in with those real consequential things. Yeah, that's my question.
I think that the real consequential things need to be on the table pretty early on. The place that my brain went is X-Files. I am watching that with my wife, and it, we have kind of like the main story arc that's dealing with like the real big repercussions, and then it's like the Monster of the Week episodes. And I like that we can have both, but sometimes if there are too many Monster of the Week episodes in a row before I get anything that actually like really matters again, I like get bored. And so I think it's like a tricky balancing act. And I think, waiting until book 15 is definitely not the way to do it for most series. I think, a lot of times you have to at least have a promise that things are going to get more meaningful, or more, that the stakes are going to go somewhere from near the beginning. We can have some time to introduce the characters, but really any like basic story structure, is going to have the introduction of the stakes once we get to know the characters. Otherwise, it's just playtime. It feels like nothing matters if we don't have something else on the table. And I feel like so often what series do is just show us that the worst thing that can happen is death, and that's boring.
Yeah.
Like if the worst thing that can happen is just that a character dies, okay, but I know that there's another gazillion in the series, so clearly that isn't that big of a threat. So the thing that needs to be on the table needs to be deeper, more meaningful. I need characters to actually want something, and have that taken away from them or denied them or whatever it is. And so those stakes need to be present, or story just doesn't really mean anything. Not to say that we can't have fun, smaller stories, but it needs to, like, if I don't have, but what about that other thing in the back of my mind, nagging at me, then I just kind of don't care. And things can change, and the stakes can change, and probably should change, especially as these big series go. But when I just don't even have any like real stakes, I just kind of don't give a crap, and it just stays that way.
Yeah, I like the point you made too of it doesn't have to be death. It made me think of earlier. I thought of this. My wife was audiobooking Game of Thrones in the car, and I saw the Eddard chapter, and I was like, "Oh, you're on the first book," because we know Eddard's there, so you're on the first book. But I thought back to when I watched the show, and episode I think 8 or 9 is when he gets executed, and then that moment didn't hit me as hard as the next episode when his head is on the stake, and like his daughter sees it, and it's like this man who is this like honorable knight of great renown, the good guy, is reduced to like a corpse, and his kids have to see the repercussions. So I think you're right about like the death was bad, but the real stake was like, oh, the king's no one to mess with, your status can disappear in an instant, and like all that you do in your life can be reduced to you being a puppet on a like piece of wood. So I think you're right that like death is a way, but there's so many other ways to set up those like really consequential parts of a story.
If death is the worst thing that can happen to your character, then you have a very boring character.
Jeremy,
and
thoughts?
I mean, I have thoughts. I've always got thoughts. Like, if we're bringing it back to even specifically this book, for those who have read the rest of the series, and of course the following book in the series, like you'll know that for the main character, death is pretty much off the table. Like, we know that it is actually impossible for Arthur Dent to die because he hasn't been to Stav Romula Beta yet. So, like, and it's just one of those things where just the kind of story you're telling just should inform the level of stakes. Like, it should tell you what logically is the worst thing that can happen to the characters should they, not succeed in what they're doing, fail in some kind of way. And, here implicitly, death is kind of off the table because it wouldn't make sense in this sort of rom-com setting for, like, Arthur Dent to fail hitting on Fenchurch and then be killed. Because there wouldn't be any... There is a logic to the universe that we're being presented with. It's bananas, but it's there. And that's just one real thing. Like, you can go to just automatically death, but I agree with that not being like a super interesting thing. Like, most of the time it is more interesting to like have to live with the consequences of what you've done. And that is one of the gripes I had with the movie Weapons, where like all the, like, any of the characters that got, mind controlled or whatever and did stuff that was too bad all ended up dying, so no one would have to kind of face what they were made to do, except for like the children getting released at the end. Spoilers for Weapons, if for anyone who hasn't seen it. I thought that movie was okay.
I was a big fan. We have an episode on it. Go watch the episode, please.
Yeah, go watch that episode.
Your comments made me think of a book that's weirdly regaining a high amount of popularity as like a gateway drug into the classics, which is Count of Monte Cristo. Because that was probably my favorite. My favorite element of Count of Monte Cristo was I expected the revenge to just be like elaborate ways of killing every person that wronged him, and it's
like the movie,
like the movie, but no, it's like so much worse. he manipulates marriages to make people like marry or like be in families with bastard children they didn't know existed, and like all this stuff. And every time it like hit a point of that, I was like, oh yeah, that's way better than what I thought was going to happen. So I could see why that book is gaining popularity again, is because it's very excitingly written, and the sort of plot lines are all end in a very satisfactory way, even if many of them make zero sense logically, but who cares? It's a fun book.
And it has a great scene where a dude does hashish and then makes out with a statue.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love that?
What more do you need? Don't read the abridged version. Read the 800-page unabridged, or no, it's like 1,200-page.
Yeah, 1,200
unabridged tome. I highly recommend. Okay,
though you will start to feel the weight of him getting paid by the word as it goes on.
Definitely. A couple of the like French high society conversation scenes, I was just like, okay, buddy.
Hey, he was just a smart businessman.
Yep, 100%. He made his money.
Yeah.
All right. Nope, go ahead, Nathan.
I was just going to say, and just freaking ruled. Just great author.
For sure. Okay, next question. And I'm going to kind of try and circle it back here to Douglas Adams, but we can branch out again. I want to know from the author perspective, Nathaniel and Jeremy, you're writing a book, not published yet, but you're writing a book. He doesn't technically kill his darlings, but Adams wrote a book that is lacking at least two of the characters many people came to his stories for. And I'm sure that was difficult as a writer, but also sounds like the right choice from the two of you who've read it. Have you ever experienced that? So what do you think of how Adams did it, of focusing the story like very specifically on Arthur? And then have you ever experienced having to like kill your darlings in a sense of having a character that you were pretty glued to that you know has to go, but it's kind of hard to maybe do it?
Man, okay. So I haven't had to like totally cut any characters, thankfully, that I was attached to. I thankfully have realized early on enough when I have a character that doesn't really belong in a story, or it doesn't belong in the next story or whatever. I usually figure it out early enough that I can just shove stuff off to the side, make some notes, and then that turns into a story, some other story later. And that's always the great thing about killing your darlings, is that you don't actually have to kill them. You can just hide them in a different document and bring them back to life in a new and interesting way. I feel like in this case it was definitely the right call, because it was telling the story that he needed to tell. If he was stopping and going off to Zaphod, well, then we would just have random asides. It wouldn't have anything to do with the plot of this story, the character arcs, anything. Honestly, as was briefly mentioned during the debate, like, he kind of dropped those characters like 2/3 of the way through the previous book, and I felt like that was a little jarring. But ultimately, like, if the characters don't have anything to do, why are you messing with them? Or if a scene isn't going anywhere, if a plot line isn't going anywhere, it's better to prune it and tell the story that you need to tell than it is to hold on to it because it's fun to play with that character. I think that is often what good editing is all about. But hopefully, that can be avoided just by good planning in the first place, and kind of realizing what is the story I want to tell, what things are actually telling that story, and what things are departing from it and might be a fun scene but doesn't actually add anything.
I think you're like 100% right about that. Like, if you ultimately can't answer the question of like, oh, why is this character here, then they really shouldn't be. Like, there probably is a way to include Zaphod and Trillian in the book, but it's so much more trouble than it's worth, and it fundamentally has to change the story that you're trying to tell to make it make sense for them to be included. Like,
it shifts the reader's focus too much.
Yeah, like, they are characters for when the story has higher stakes than Arthur Dent trying to pork down. Like, there's
no trying.
I was going to say, it sounds like he successfully porked down.
Gets there, dude.
Everywhere, flying around.
He gets all over there. It's not just porking
Side
down,
of a
it's
flying plane,
up,
all sorts of
down, left, right. There is a vector of pork going on.
It's like the Konami code up in the sky.
Oh yeah.
Roger. What's your vector, Victor? I love it.
Totally.
You know what this weirdly is bringing to mind for me is especially what you said, Nathaniel, about like you don't always have to kill them, or they can be set aside in like a side story. For teaching, I've been doing a lot of reading about George Washington. And I'm reading Chernow's biography on him right now, which is a tome. But that's like a weird thing too, of even in historical books and in nonfiction, you have to like kill your darlings of a sense. I'm sure there's like people in history that the historian is like, this guy's awesome, but he really has nothing to do with Washington. Like, I can't write about him. And then you'll see him pop up in a different Revolutionary War story or something. And that's like, oh, I bet that's just a hard choice to make as both a fiction and a nonfiction author, to be like, oh, I love this person, but I can't put them in this story because it doesn't make any damn sense. So,
yeah, I mean,
fascinating.
You know, how many books about the French Revolution are there that don't mention, you know, Alexandre Dumas' dad, who was absolutely like a crazy badass, one of the most interesting people in like all of history, but like so many stories don't ever mention him, much less that he was like an important general and all of that stuff. Yeah, you learn about him when you pick up a book about him, not when you're just reading about the French Revolution.
Yeah, or the one I was thinking of was I'm trying to find who I'm really bad with names, people. I swear I know what I'm talking about. John Adams's family doctor was one of the first major deaths in the Revolutionary War. He died at Bunker Hill, and I found one series by Nathaniel Philbrick. He wrote a trilogy, and the first book is called Bunker Hill, I think is what it's called. And it follows him. And it's like, the guy has such a fascinating story. He's like John Adams' family doctor. He knows George Washington personally. He's like educating the kids of several of the founding fathers. Everybody loves him. Like, he's like this renowned figure, and he gets shot on Bunker Hill and dies. And the book is basically about his story and like how people dying like that started the fury towards the British. Anyway, I get to the Bunker Hill part in Washington's biography, and there's like, it's like one sentence where it's like, this guy died. And I'm like, oh man, like there's so much more behind that. But I also understand why you didn't go into it, because it has nothing to do with George. It's just, oh yeah, his friend died, and it was really sad.
It's just one of those things, man. And like in this series, like if we're talking about Zaphod, his whole deal wraps up at the end of the second book. And like the third book has him like kind of grappling with fulfilling his life's purpose and being super listless after that. And if all that happened after that is that he settled down and like just being happy, quiet somewhere, that it wouldn't make sense to kind of throw him into like what happens in the next book, where like maybe the universe is at stake and there's a lot of things, but like he already did his shit.
Yeah, you can only steal so many hearts of gold before, you know, you run out of things to do.
Yep.
There's probably only so many of those. Yeah.
The guy's name is Joseph Warren. Okay. I looked it up. I found it. Dr. Joseph Warren. Really interesting story. If you're into,
if you make it into history, it's because you badassed your way there.
Exactly. All right. I got a couple more questions, 2 to be specific. This one kind of branches off our last one. I just wrote for my note on the question, info dumps and Easter eggs. I'm kind of curious to hear opinions on, it sounds like a couple in this book of like little Easter egg or like small little scenes of characters showing up, like we just talked about, who aren't part of the main plot, but we get a little bit of like, oh, they lived happily ever after. Where do you think that has a place in stories like this, or in large arching world building type of stories? Do you like when characters show up in this Easter egg capacity? Do you find it distracting? Are there any examples you can think of where it's done well or poorly? I'm very curious about that, because I've seen it in film and in books, and even Marvel. I think we've mentioned this on the show before, but like early Marvel literally used them to gauge interest. They would like put Easter eggs in the movies, and if then they'd scour the internet, and if people had noticed the Easter egg, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, start writing that movie," because people want to see.
We got the Infinity Saga.
We got the Infinity Saga, so like it's been used a lot, even if people haven't noticed it. And I'm curious what y'all think about those little tiny snippets of like legacy characters entering into a story.
I really like it for the most part. Like the person who probably does this the most flagrantly is Stephen King. Like all of his books have little Easter eggs from all of his other stuff, especially if they tie into the Dark Tower. But even if it doesn't tie into the Dark Tower, whatever, man. He's just gonna make little nods and references. And like I like doing that in my own writing. Like I love having little characters, little nods, little references, without it being, derailing the story. I think if it's a thing that the fans can go, oh, this is delightful. Oh, this thing I love is connected to this other thing I love. That's great. If I can then still focus on the story. But I think when it's done poorly, it's when it derails a scene, when it's just like, the camera stops and there's a character posing and it's like, all right, yes, we know that this is an Easter egg, and then it moves on and everyone goes, what was that little bit about? So if it's sprinkled in, if it's like salt. If it's put in there, it can enhance the dish. If you put too much, oof, way too much salt. And so like that's kind of the thing. And like even the writers and creators that I like doing that, sometimes they do it too much. Every once in a while there's a Stephen King thing that I'm like, really, do we really need to like stop and think about the ramifications for this whole greater universe now because of this dumb little aside, when now I don't care about the weird little story about the unhinged secondhand store that's selling people their heart's desires or whatever. So it needs to be placed well, but like, I don't know, I'm a sucker for good Easter eggs, and I am the kind of person who loves to follow certain creators down their whole rabbit hole. I read all the Stephen King books or read all the Brandon Sanderson books or whatever, and I get to enjoy those and talk about those. It's the fun thing that you get to chat about with your friends once the movie's over, right? Oh my gosh, did you see this? What could that mean? What's the bigger implications? That's a fun thing after it's done. But when I'm in the middle of it and then I have to stop and think about those things, that's a problem.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. The thing about Easter eggs, and I've said this on the show before, it's a thing where it has to, like, the story has to work whether somebody knows what you're doing there or not. Like a near classic bad example of this, I feel like, is Luke Skywalker showing up in The Mandalorian, where it's like, haha, remember this is flippin' Star Wars. And that's,
I feel like that might border on a hot take. I feel like a lot of people loved the Luke Skywalker.
Look, I get
I'm with you.
it.
I'm with you, but I feel like
it wasn't strong storytelling.
No,
it wasn't strong storytelling. Look, the thing they're counting on, and honestly correctly, is that everyone in the world has seen Star Wars, so they know who Luke Skywalker is. But like, if you're treating it like they haven't seen the Tridge or anything like it, then that's just, like, honestly really confusing, because the cinematography and music and all this other stuff is treating this like, oh, this guy's really big and important, and he just kind of shows up, and the story doesn't treat him like he's important. The story just treats him like he's there and now he's gone. And so if you don't already know that he's important, that's like super confusing.
Like, could you have imagined that scene in Andor? Like the middle of this dark political
Travis?
spy thriller, and it's just like, oh, but Luke. Like Luke's
Travis,
here.
I'm going to tell you right now, I have not watched any
Oh,
part of Andor.
dude.
Okay.
That is the correct thing to do because, very hot take, Andor is boring as hell.
Shit.
No, Nathaniel. We got to talk about this
yeah.
StokerCon. I'm an Andor fan. I love Andor. Okay, this is.
We know.
We're not going to take this on the tangent. Or
And I
maybe
say
you
that
could
as a
be-
person who loved Rogue One.
You might be on the
Rogue
maybe we
One
could
kind
do-
of flipping rips, dude.
Did we do an Andor episode already, or can we invite
We did
Nathaniel
not,
back?
because if we had, I would have watched at least 3 episodes of Andor.
Yeah,
3 minimum.
Nathaniel, Andor episode,
Okay.
season
okay.
5.
But, dude,
I don't know how I can defend it if I end up rolling that way. That would be a rough time.
let's flip and ride, man.
I think it'd be a
Let's
great show.
I mean, I
go.
guess I could talk about pretty cinematography or something, but
That's true. That's always the go-to. If you roll high on something you don't like, you talk about performances, you talk about cinematography, all that good shit.
I just did it last episode.
You
I
did
did
it just the
did it.
last episode.
Last episode. Did I interrupt you though, Jeremy, with my Andor thing? Do you have more to say, or can I end us with
Well, let's see,
my
'cause I
pretentious
mean-
question of the week?
Ooh.
It's related. It's related.
You
to
know, I
everything.
love a good pretentious question. I think we covered everything because honestly, my thoughts on Easter eggs are not that complex. Like they should add, but they shouldn't ever subtract if you don't already know. Which you kind of do have to assume that whoever's picking up your book or watching an episode of your thing has never seen or read it before. You got to try and win them every time.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, and like I think Brandon Sanderson is the ultimate example of doing that well because, especially the first couple of books I read by him, I had no idea that there were these references to other books, and then I learned as I read those other books, and then I went, oh, and then I was all excited, and then I wanted to revisit. If it makes me want to revisit the thing, perfect. Or if it makes you enjoy, going down a wiki article and looking at all the Silent Hill streets are named after horror authors. I love it. But when it's like, oh, I don't know what's going on now, that's a problem.
Yeah. And I assume C.S. Humble is really good at this because I've read exactly one of his books and it was excellent. And I'm told there are great references to his other books in that book that I did read.
That's
Yeah,
how you do it.
Probably how you do it. I think one of my favorite is in the Aeneid, and I've mentioned this line a bunch. Is I just have to. I'm going to nerd out a little bit here because this
Absolutely
is the
do it.
crowd to do it too. In the Aeneid,
The
there's
crowd
a scene.
of nerds, yes.
There's a scene where they're like the Aeneas's army is in this like fort, and they're fighting the Romans. And this one Roman soldier, again, I'm terrible with names, who's like the most badass of the whole army of Romans.
Why not?
Native Romans gets into the fort, and they're like, "Oh, we can take this guy now because it's all of us against just him." And he starts like slaughtering them. And the line he says, and I don't know it specifically, but it's something along the lines of like, "Send word to your Aeneas that a new Achilles has like walked upon the soil," and it's like, oh, that's like a great Easter egg of like he's just slaughtering these guys, and they're like, oh yeah, we just faced one of these before. So there's my nerd out thing to set up my pretentious question of the week, which is very related to this.
God, I love a pretentious question.
Thank you, Jeremy. I would love to get y'all's opinions on, oh no, it happened. Give me a second. It'll come back. I had it perfectly
You can
worded.
flip and do it, man.
And then I nerded out about Aeneid, and I lost the wording that I had.
It's hard. You shouldn't nerd out without a sufficiently sturdy hat to keep your ideas from flying out of your head.
I know. Oh, okay. I think I got it. I would love to hear your opinion on this whole idea of sort of the J.J. Abrams accusation of the member berries all the time, of like using legacy characters as means to simply try and garner attention. Specifically, the pretentious part of it is I've read a lot of critical articles recently about how it's not really a lesson that Hollywood will learn. Like they can't get it through their head that like it's not that we just want to see the legacy characters. We want to see good stories and occasionally glance at like a thing that we recognize. So I guess a question in here, and I also more just want to hear your opinion on that subject as a whole, is like, do you think they will ever learn? Will we keep getting this constant cranking out of like IP things for the sake of like, oh, maybe it'll make us money, even though it keeps failing, especially this year? Mandalorian and Grogu did terrible. Supergirl did terrible. Like the things that have done good this year have been independent, very unique stories. Will that message get through or no? And also, what do you think about that kind of like, why do we keep seeing this like, oh, I'm just going to dump an IP thing on you and hope that you come because you want to see Baby Yoda?
It's very simple. The decisions that are being made by people who are money people and not creatives. They do not understand story, and they frankly don't give a crap about any of that. These are decisions that are made purely financially. Now, if occasionally we have a person who's a money person and a creative person, or a money person who actually listens to the creative people, and that's when we have good explorations of or good utilization of these IPs. But for the most part, at the end of the day, Hollywood is run by people who have the money, and they are business people. They are not creatives. They got into this because it makes them money. And so the people who are passionate, who are trying to tell a story, have to often bend their awesome thing to fit within the terrible framework of the money people, because the money people get to call the shots. If you got the dollars, then you get to call the shots. And so that's why this happens. And unless suddenly creatives start making wildly large amounts of money and taking all of that from the people who are the ones currently holding it, that's not going to change.
Yeah. Now, did I hear correctly that Douglas Adams wanted to conclude after 3 books, or was he told by publisher, like, what's the story behind these two that are kind of separated? Is there any money people trying to force him to write behind the scenes things?
To the best of my knowledge, from what I was reading, and a lot of this is coming from having read The Salmon of Doubt, which is the 3rd Dirk Gently book that wasn't finished, but it also has like lots of other things about Adams and his life, and it has essays and all of that stuff. If I am remembering correctly, and I read it a long time ago, so big caveat. I believe that what it was is that the publisher said, we are interested in doing more, and he had an idea for So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, and then he didn't really have as strong of an idea for Mostly Harmless, and also he was kind of just in a bad mood with the world with Mostly Harmless, and so he just kind of used it as a vehicle to put all of the things he was frustrated about, more than telling a specific story, which I'm curious to see what you guys end up thinking about that one, because for me it's very darkly funny, but it's more like an angry man is being sarcastic, more than I have a really cool idea for a story.
Season 5. Season 5. Jeremy, what do you think about IPs being shoved down our throats and legacy characters and all that jazz.
Now, look, ultimately, to answer the question of will Hollywood ever learn, I'm going to side with Nathaniel is with the answer of no. They're not built to. Like, they have a marketing team, and if anybody has ever had a corporate job, like, they know how bad the marketing team is.
And how much power they have.
They have so much power, it's crazy. And they make such decisions that you would really never understand. Now, point of context, I worked at a Golden Corral for 20 entire years. Now, for even more context, that was starting at the age of 9 when my parents opened Golden Corral. Still, I worked there. Now, what you have to understand about a marketing team is they don't actually care whether you make money or not. They care about getting people in the door. In terms of a movie, it's people into the seat of the theater at least one time. That's why you get things like what happens with Supergirl, where they don't actually care whether the story is good or bad, or whether the movie itself is good or bad. They care about getting one person into one seat one time.
That's why they spoil everything in trailers. That's why so many great ideas get shot down. I mean, even just in my personal writing career, I've had editors say, I wanted to buy your book, but the marketing people said no. And that is a frustrating email to get.
I guess that's what
people have a crazy amount of power, dude.
That's what blows my mind, though, is like, and I'm not like, I agree with both of you. I don't think they're going to learn their lesson. But what blows my mind is they don't seem to actually, like, the marketing team is saying, like, this is what gets butts and seats. But then they don't seem to actually see what actually gets butts and seats. Like, Obsession is at $405 million, almost $500 million. And it has, like, I think the lesson that they're going to take from it is, we should recruit this director for the next IP movie. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's the dumbest thing you could possibly take away from that.
And look, the thing about a marketing team is that they know what has worked. They don't automatically know why, because they're not the creatives behind the process. They know for a fact that they can get at least one other story from the writer and at least one other movie from the director, and they can up both of those projects' budgets by $50 to $100 million and probably get a return on their investment. And that's the only thing they realistically know how to care about.
And I guess that's what I'm saying is, like, they're not going to, like, Supergirl is a prime example. There's no return on investment. They will not make their budget back. It's not going to have, like, they're not going to profit it unless a miracle happens in the next 2 weeks. But, like, its numbers dropped so hard in the second weekend. But Nathaniel, I think I interrupted you. Sorry.
Oh, no. I just, I saw a meme the other day that perfectly captured this. Because it basically they just took a screenshot of an article saying, like, Hollywood agencies are now scouring Reddit for short stories that can be turned into movies after the success of Backrooms.
Oh man!
And so then the person's response was taking one of the 2-sentence horror stories. I feel the anesthesia take hold as I lie on the surgical table. Just before I pass out, I hear the doctor say, "Move him to the penis explosion chamber." So, clearly, like, they always learn the wrong lessons, and we as the consumers know it, and the creatives know it, and it's just, we the only thing we can do is laugh at it, or and enjoy the good things when they do
come up. It reminds
the
me
only
of
thing
the
to do. You just gotta laugh at the chaos of an inexplicable universe.
yeah,
Cheers,
which I think
everyone.
Adams was all about.
Mhm.
It reminds me of and I know there was more to it than just this, but like I didn't read much into it, but I saw a headline that was like, new Cracker Barrel's new marketing team is taking away the knickknacks, and I was like, have they ever been to a Cracker Barrel and like hung out
Of
with the
course
people who
not.
eat at Cracker Barrel? Because that's the whole point of Cracker Barrel. Like you can't take away the
Travis,
knickknacks.
they've at most been to the Cracker Barrel in Las Vegas. I assume there is one, and it's nothing like any Cracker Barrel in the rest of the United States of America.
Well, I'll tell you what, you don't go for the food. Okay.
Go for that weird game with the teas.
Yeah. The tea game, and to like look through the store and be like, oh, that's funny. Maybe I should buy one of those, and then you don't, and you leave. but like that's why you're there. Anyway, we should have
100%.
ended. We should have ended with Jeremy's perfect comment about the chaos of the universe, but I talk too much. Ew. So we are going to rate
Girl,
this
same.
thing. We are going to rate this thing. Our rating system is actually, I'm going to put Jeremy back because you're going to go first. Our rating system is entirely arbitrary and nonsensical. It is how many drinks does it take to fully enjoy? So long, and thanks for all the fish. We're going to end with you, Nathaniel, so that you can once again tell everybody who you are and where to find you. Or substances of choice. It doesn't have to be alcoholic beverages. It can be non-alcoholic beverages, alcoholic beverages, or some people have offered drugs. Jeremy, how many substances of choice does it take to fully enjoy So Long and Thanks for All the Fish?
Now, to fully enjoy So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, I think you need to take the advice of Wonka the Sane and make sure that your mind is like that of a child. You know, you need to be willing to fully experience, accept what you're seeing, and just go with it. Now, obviously, there is an answer to this, and I think it's clear from the writing that we have observed or listened to, or both, from Douglas Adams. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to start by having a drink spill roughly the size of a nation's defense budget.
Okay.
And I think that'll get
which
you
nation,
exactly right.
Which nation makes a really big difference?
Hey,
There's
dealer's
US
choice,
and there's
my guy.
everybody else.
That's true.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm from the United States. That's the only defense budget that matters to me.
That's a lot of booze. All right.
That's so much. So many
much.
digits on that receipt.
Yep.
It's
All right.
crazy.
My rating is, and listen, I haven't read this book, but I've read 3 Douglas Adams books, and I imagine the vibes are similar and immaculate. And I'm going to say snort an Adderall. Man had ADHD up the wazoo. So just get yourself right. I'm not encouraging snorting drugs on the show at all, but do that. Okay, Nathaniel.
I'll take a similar take and go with pour a 5-hour energy into your favorite energy drink and chug that to really get the full experience of feeling like you're fully as ADHD as Adams. That would be my recommendation. And then where I can be found. So I'm all over social media. Most things it's at NJ Darkish. I have the podcast Scream Kings. Check us out anywhere fine podcasts are listened to, and you can check out my writing just by searching for my name in a couple of anthologies. One called Witching Time of Night. Another is Dread Mondays. I'm going to be in another one called Blood in the Sandstone that's coming out in October, and Doom Scroll also in October. So, yeah, dealer's choice. Just pick up any of those and then read Tapeworms when it comes out next year.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you, Nathaniel, for joining us for another discussion of Douglas Adams. We've got one more of these in season 5, and then we will have to move on to a different consistent author, I guess. But we always enjoy talking about the Hitchhiker's Guide because they are such fun books.
We could go Dirk Gently if we wanted to.
You should, because they're unhinged and wonderful.
How many
So
of those
good.
are there?
3.
3. Okay. Maybe we'll go
Yeah,
Dirk Gently.
dude.
I'm down.
There's
thank you
also
all
the Hulu series.
Which is pretty great.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Max
How
Landis
recent?
did it.
How recent is it?
Like 5 years ago?
Oh,
Something like that, yeah.
right.
It has
COVID.
Elijah Wood. He is amazing.
Elijah Wood is right there, man.
Elijah Wood is fantastic. I love that he went from Frodo to just like any crazy role he could possibly get. Same with Harry Potter.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe has been in
Honestly, hey, side note, Daniel Radcliffe is my choice for a live action Arthur Dent if we do one.
He does want tea.
Right?
I can see it.
I could see
Live action Ford Prefect, either Robert Pattinson or I can't remember his name, but he was... Yes, Robert Pattinson, of course. Or... I can't remember his name, but he was in the Umbrella Academy and he was in Misfits, and he is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, you gotta round it off. If we get, what about Zaphod?
Sam Rockwell
Zaphod?
again.
Okay.
Sam Rockwell again.
Maybe. But also, second head, Harry Styles.
I love it. All right.
Whoever plays the first head, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Sam Rockwell again.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for joining us. This has been Fermented Fiction. We're your usual doofuses, and I think Clayton should be back soon if you all are tired of my hosting. Goodbye.